Greetings. Once again, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to look at the phone, but I'm going to try looking over here. Maybe that's where it is. So I thought I'd tell a little story. This is a true story, obviously. And this happened last Friday, because this is my story. So anyway, I have a camera in my mother's room. I've talked about my mother before, so I don't need to go that deep into it. And what happens now is that I wake up during the night, and every time I wake up, I check the camera on the phone to see how mom is doing. And if she's asleep, then I get to go back to sleep. And if she's up and she's sitting on the edge of the bed, then I get up and I walk over there and I take her to the bathroom. And hopefully I don't have to do a whole lot with her after that. And then I put her back in bed, and then I go back to bed and try to go back to sleep. And maybe 30% of the time I get back to sleep immediately. Sometimes it takes me up to an hour to get back to sleep. But we do what we have to do to take care of our parents. On this particular night, I had gone to bed early because I was tired. And so I went to bed at 11:30, and that's very early for me. And I woke up at 1:30, and I checked the camera, and the camera was down. And I said, oh no. So I have another camera. I checked that one. It was down. I said, okay, I got to go out there, and I got to unplug the router, and I have to let it reset. So I get myself up. I walk into the dining room because that's where the router is. I unplug the router, I keep it unplugged for about 25 seconds. I plug it back in, waiting for it to do its thing. Nothing. It didn't work. I tried this a couple of times, and I said, oh, great. Now I got to go to the computer, and I have to pull it up online and, reset it that way. Only it turns out it wasn't that router. And I'm saying router, I mean my extender. I have a network extender. I actually have a couple of them in the house, but we'll come back to that a little bit later. So it turned out my actual router, the overall router, the total thing was down. That was irksome. Now, like I said, it's 1:30 in the morning. I've only slept a couple of hours. I was exhausted on the day because I didn't sleep much the day before. Had I done that, I might have been able to think my way through it. But at this time in the morning, I just couldn't. So I did my usual things, which is I unplugged the router, let it sit for a bit, tried that a couple of times. That didn't work. One time I pulled out my card because I have a wireless card on my computer because the Ethernet card burned out many years ago. I don't know why I did that. That wouldn't have had anything else to do, but I had no internet. So I had no internet. I did still have cable, but I had no internet. So I go to the phone, and luckily I can access something still on the phone, even though I didn't have wireless. I could access mobile. Found the number for Verizon Fios, called them up. It took 90 minutes to get my resolution. They did everything they could trying to reset the router, having me do this and that. And then at one point, the lady says, okay, we need you to go to the Verizon box and do a reset from there. Well, my Verizon box happens to be in the garage. Of course it is. So I have an alarm system, had to turn off the alarm system, had to walk out. Now, during all this, Mom kept waking up. I don't know how she heard me because usually she can't hear anything, but of course she heard me. So she kept getting up, walking out, had to, take time to get her to the bathroom a few times just to get in the way. Anyway, we get that whole thing set, and finally, I now have internet back. Sounds good, right? No, because I don't have my camera back. So now I'm trying to figure out how to get my camera back. And I have another thing. I actually have a wireless network extender because my neighborhood gets horrible Wi-Fi. And I've always only had basically one bar, couldn't ever send images. Sometimes it took forever for me to get an image back. So they did an examination of the neighborhood, figured out it wasn't just me messing up anything, and so they sent me a free wireless network extender. And that wouldn't reset. So nothing would reset. Well, now it's getting close to that time because, like I said, now it's hours. It's about 5:45. I had to be up at 6:30 anyway to, get my mother ready to go to the senior center. So I took a brief break, and I just kind of sat down and I relaxed a little bit. And I, take care of her when she finally gets up, or when I get her up around a certain time, get her all cleaned up, have to wait for the bus to come. And when the bus came and left, then I have to now call Verizon Wireless to try to figure out why their thing isn't working. Because I had done a test on a couple of my routers. My network extenders. I had two. And it turns out the one that I actually bought last year failed. So I'm now down to one. But I only need one right now. And it was working. And I know that because all the lights were there. And I'd hooked something else into it and it was working. But the camera wouldn't work. And the extender wouldn't work. So I figured, okay, the wireless extender wouldn't work. I figured, let's try this. So I called them. I'm on the phone about 25 minutes before I get to talk to someone. And now I've got to talk to multiple people to try to get this fixed. And what ended up happening eventually, I'm cutting corners in this story, is the guy asked me if I had an Ethernet cable that I could go from my original Verizon Fios router all the way to their wireless thing. Well, I needed something that was about 50 feet long. And on a fluke, I actually had a connection already that I had hooked into my wife's DVD player a long time ago, but that was before I'd gotten the other network extender. So I went into a room and I pulled that thing out and I had to kind of do it across the corner and I plugged it in and it automatically hooked up. So I was able to get that back. And oddly enough, once I took the Ethernet cable out of my regular extender, which I had the wireless extender into it, once I took that out, suddenly my cameras came back. I have no idea why it happened that way, but it did. And all in all, that took me about 8 hours. I was exhausted. But you know what? I'm a trooper. I had planned on going to the casino earlier in the week on Friday. I went to the casino anyway. I was groggy. I was tired. I played slower than I normally do. And I only lost $100. And that may sound like, wow, you still lost $100. Well, sometimes I lose more. I've been on a losing streak where I'd been losing more, but I only lost $100. And I only lost that in the last 30 minutes I was there. I'd been playing pretty well. And even when I lost it, I had good hands. You know, that's just how poker is. And, you know, I tell this story because sometimes we think we've got everything figured out. And it may just be a few other things that are there before we need to call for help. But I was just so exhausted. I couldn't think straight. Had this happened in the afternoon, I would have known all these steps to take because I've had to do these things in the past. That's just how it is. But it doesn't hurt to call up the people who actually know what it is that they're doing and let them help you. I wish it hadn't taken as long as it had because, man, I was exhausted. The next day, I got a total of 7.5 hours sleep, which is rare for me. So there you go. I did finally catch up on it. Anyway, that's my story. That's all I got. Believe it or not, this is the first content I've created all week long. I've been a busy man. I'm not going to say what I've been doing, but I'll get to it at some point. Anyway, my name is Mitch Mitchell. Hope you learned something from this story. Hope you enjoyed it. You know, same thing. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, bell. See y'all later.